So many women look at other women that maybe they're inspired by or feel like, ooh, what's she got going on? And they create so much distance between themselves and what they desire or who they desire to be or how they desire to become embodied. I always say, if you spot it, you got it. So if you're seeing something, feeling something, having a sensation by watching a woman, it's because it's touching a piece within you that's already there. That's just asking to come back to life. So I think that's like the first step, is just like celebrating yourself as a woman and all that you're capable of and all you've been designed to do.
Welcome to the Stay Grounded podcast. I'm your host, Raj Jana, co-founder at Liberate, and it's my mission to help you become the most grounded, loving, and authentic version of yourself that you can be. Each week, I interview guests in the fields of mindset, spirituality, and emotional well-being. My brilliant guests share their tools, tips, and unique perspectives to help you develop the skills you need to show up for the people that matter most in your life. Now let's dive in. Yo, what's up everyone, and welcome to this delightful episode of Stay Grounded with my darling, my dearest, Natalie Adele. Natalie's been on the show in the past, and many times actually, to talk about different experiences we've had together, her philosophy on life, and the way that she moves through the world. And in this episode, we dive a layer deeper into what is feminine leadership, the art of magnetizing and accessing the frequency of feminine embodiment, and the way that Natalie defines it. And I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. She's one of my favorite people to have a conversation with, and I can't wait for you to dive deeper into all things Natalie. And it's really weird to be like introducing you with you right next to me. Like,
I like it.
I was like trying to do a format, because I usually do my intros like after the episodes are done, and then we dive in. But
I'm like, can we walk into all parties like this? Just introduce me before I walk into the room.
Great.
I'll just patiently wait until the introduction's done.
Well, I like doing it this way because it adds an air of like mystery. Like, yes, I'm introducing who you are, and there's an element of like, where are we going to go? Which is really beautiful. And one thing that I'm super excited to talk to you about today is the idea of feminine leadership. I think there's a lot of ways to look at this. We have the paradigm of masculine leadership, right? And then I feel like there was this sort of feminist leadership movement, which was almost like being a woman inside of this patriarchal structure of leadership. And then there's like what I feel is emerging in the space, and something that I see you embody, and what I feel you teach the women that you support really is this new, maybe not new, but a more refined, authentic, connected definition of feminine leadership. So I'd love to start there. Maybe define what you feel is feminine leadership, and how that contrasts to what we may have understood feminine leadership to be in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I love that you bring in this feminine leadership concept, because it's such a huge part of my philosophy, but it's not something I'm really forward facing with or talk much about, because to me, I feel like the word feminine and leadership are sort of like they have like a energy that sort of counters each other. A lot of people, when they talk about feminine leadership, are talking about going out there and being CEOs and leading the workforce and like being amazing at public speaking and like innovation and all of this. And that is a realm of feminine leadership. But what I like to feel into when I think of feminine leadership is more how we actually authentically lead as women with our energy, with our energetic imprint, with our tonality. And so one of my teachers, Jillian Pothier, says the feminine frequency goes first. So often we think leadership, the male leads, in this polarity world, the male leads in relationship, the male leads the conversation, the male energy guides businesses and conversations, whereas the feminine really leads a conversation, leads communities, leads businesses with her energy, with her frequency, with her tonality, with the way you feel sitting, standing, interacting next to her and with her. So for me, that's what feminine leadership really is. If we truly understand the tonality of what it actually means to be a feminine being, that's how she leads, is being, like I always say, the most powerful woman in the room is the most relaxed. She's the leader, not the one who knows the most, is talking the most, has the highest, bank account, has the largest network. Rather, in the paradigm that I'm referring to, the leader in the room is the one who's seated and grounded in her power, in her relaxed power, with nothing to prove.
Yeah, and the way you were even describing it almost goes beyond masculine, feminine, of like man, female. There's a frequency that you're really speaking to. Like there's a tonality of being, right? The imprint of being.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yes.
like I think that's ultimately what
Yes.
you're speaking to. It's being able to move through all of the layers within our psyche, within our being, within ourselves, that need us to be operating inside of a paradigm that isn't true to us, that isn't true to our bodies, that isn't true to our health, that isn't true to our relationships. And I'm curious, this frequency, how do you feel? Because like I feel like even in the way you just said, the grounded nature, like that's something that as a man I want to aspire to.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So how does this pole of groundedness differ in your experience, between men and women?
That's a really great question. First of all, I just want to start with saying what is even grounded? What does that even mean, regardless of gender? I think that's an important place to start. Is, to me, I think, how do I feel when I'm next to a grounded person or conversating with a grounded person, and their energy is in their body, it's dropped down and in. So that holds true for men or women, right, who are grounded. Their energy is down and in. So if any of us, masculine or feminine, is up in the head, over-caffeinated, too much screen time, not enough deep breaths, the energy is frenetic and it's up in the higher energy centers, not grounded. We want to drop the anchor into this here and now moment, into the earth, right? So grounded is that earth energy. For me, the difference between masculine groundedness and feminine groundedness is like the masculine, when he's grounded, is rooted in, like, I don't know if I can say it on your podcast, but like he's rooted in his balls. He's in his body. He's operating from his, like, we'll call it the lower dantian. The hara is another name for it in Taoist philosophy. It's your power center as a man. It's in your belly. It's in your gut, and that's where your seat of power is, your solar center. So, and then the feminine, when she's in her grounded power, her energy is in her womb. Her energy is in her womb, which is still the lower dantian. And so the philosophy of a man and a woman being grounded and how they get there is the same, but then just due to the nature of biology and them being different beings, it's going to express a little bit differently and impact the world around them a little bit differently. So a man being grounded in his power will influence and impact the way he leads as a masculine being, directive, decisive, visionary. And the female, when she's grounded in her power, will impact how she communes with the world, leads businesses, intuitive, nutritive, nourishing, compassionate. And it's not to say as well, like you said earlier, it's not to say that men can't hold those qualities and that women can't hold the other qualities. In the tantric philosophy, we all have both masculine and feminine energetics. Like you said, it's an imprint, it's a signature, it's a frequency, as opposed to like gender.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that, both in the lower centers and the pathway there are the same. I might offer like I feel like they're a little different in some ways. Like
The pathway?
Yeah, the pathway. I mean, like we're going through the body, we're going through
Down
feeling,
and
down and in, right? Like those are, but like the way that I feel like women awaken into their full potential, there's like a different archetypal map in some ways versus like men. And I'm curious, like if you could even speak to like the archetypal maps that sort of fall into that descent inward. Like for me, like, if I think about the most popular book on on masculine awakening, it's king, warrior, magician, lover, right? And each of those archetypes have different call forwards, have different pathways in. So I'm curious, like with the feminine and coming to this state of nutritive, grounded, intuitive power, right? Like what is the pathway or pathways, or what is how do you think about this descent as a woman versus, because that's ultimately what we're even talking about. Like the whole world has been about masculine leadership, which has been about doing and going. And it's like there's a lot of maps out there for that, but I don't feel like there are enough widespread, widely adopted maps for women.
Yeah.
And you have actual, I mean, I feel that in you. Like I feel this frequency that you're embodying. And so I'm curious, either from experience or the work you've taken people with or through, like what are those maps that you're leaning on and moving and holding?
Yeah, I love it. I love that your question was like, what do I think about the feminine descent? And I just heard this voice. It's like, I don't think about it, right? That's a big piece, is like feeling into it. And so I would say that's the first piece on the map, is committing to establishing that bridge between head and body. So many women I work with, when I'm like, what do you desire? They're like, I want to feel connected. I want to feel connected to my body, and I want to feel connected to my emotions, and I don't know how to do it. And so to me, the feminine descent is step one, drop anchor. And just like, I do this practice with women called body talk, and it's such a foundational practice that is built upon. But a good first step is to close your eyes, take a deep breath, drop into the body. Again, trust that you're doing that. Don't think about it. And ask yourself the question, how do I feel? How do I feel? And maybe it's numb. Maybe it's confused. Maybe it's uncertain, right? These are all feelings as well. How do I feel? Where do I feel that in my body? And again, a lot of times you'll see women like thinking, where do I feel it in my body? And I guide them, no, go in. Where do you feel that in your body? Where do you feel uncertainty? Where do you feel numbness? I feel it in my belly. And then the third piece of that is, and what does it sound like? Because the body doesn't use words. It dialogues in sound, vibration, and movement. My breath, sound, and movement. And so they go like, and it, it's a little uncomfortable and it's edgy, but they learn how to just express that. So I feel like as the most foundational piece is nurture that pathway. It's almost like, imagine you've walked this pathway so much of the head brain logic, thinking your way through life as a woman, and you take out the machete, the metaphorical machete, and you start paving a new pathway. And that pathway has not been trodden on, so it's overgrown, like all these plants behind you, with societal conditioning and lack of trust and self-doubt and all of this, and you start paving away and you commit to that every day. And this pathway is taking you here, home, into your body, into your feeling senses. And every day that you show up and you do a practice, as simple as that, today I feel it here in my body, and it sounds like you're creating an opening and a pathway. And eventually that old one, when you don't tend to it, grows over and it becomes less appealing. And this new one just is the easier way to go. And it requires dedication and discipline and trust. And so that could be a form of like a daily devotion that you could commit to. It could start daily, and then you can practice it with your friends, your partner, your lovers, your kids, get them involved. Step one is just learning how to drop anchor and like trust yourself that you know how to do that. You can't do it wrong,
So the initiation is an initiation of self-trust and returning back to the intelligence center of the body. And that's really the piece of the foundational element of the feminine path, is really like descending into the body. Am I understanding that?
Totally. Down and in, down and in, down and in. And the self-trust piece is huge. And the remembering is an important word as well, of like, it doesn't matter how many years you've been on birth control. It doesn't matter what society has told you. It doesn't matter how far away from the shore of your essence you are. If you are a woman and identify as a feminine being, you inherently know how to woman. You inherently know how to do it. And so another key piece of the map that I have created for women is slowing down and creating spaciousness. Slowing down and creating spaciousness. Because if we, as women, we love to be filled, right? We love to be filled by life, ideas. We love being full. Men love being empty, right? They love clearing their mind in meditation. Women love to be filled, right? And so the more we can be spacious and be literally filled with spaciousness, the more void space there is to hear, this is how I feel today. This is what it sounds like. To get those intuitive hits. To remember, to really listen deeply to those little, I'm amazed, I'll get women on introductory calls and they're so convinced that they're so far away from their woman. And after just 2 minutes of deep breathing and closing their eyes, they remember. And tears flow and sensations in their body starts talking to them and magic starts unfolding, And so really slowing down and creating a life of spaciousness, space to be filled with grace. Grace, I feel, is being an embodiment of the divine. And so we can't be an embodiment of the divine feminine, our innate body wisdom, all the stories that have been passed down from the women who have come before us that live in our very bones, that live in our very womb, all those voices. If we just slow down and create spaciousness and turn down the noise of the modern world, all the incoming data, that's a huge piece of the map.
Yeah, and the spaciousness, there's a tie-in to what I find to be in order to allow that spaciousness, you have to be okay with things being spacious. And there's almost a piece of okayness, allowing, we've talked about safety a lot, just as a concept, right? And how important it is in so many elements of healing. Because when you feel safe, you naturally come home, right? Or whatever wants to be released can be released so that there can be more spaciousness. And so how does safety, and almost and I really want to hear it because I can feel in a lot of my female friends just an inherent lack of safety, right? Yeah. Because just think about the world. The world is an unsafe place in many ways for women. It has been, at least, right? And so there's guards up. There's all the walls that are up for women around, at least the women I know and that I love and cherish. And so how do you bring back the spaciousness and how do you help women access safety in a world that's very, it's very easy to, it's actually very warranted to have your guard up?
Yeah, yes. This is a really beautiful question. And what's coming through is it's done with tender, loving care and patience. Because that's the other thing too, is so many women are I want to feel safe in 6 weeks. How can we do that in 6 weeks? Or can we change this into a 3-month journey? It's no, we can't force it. We can't put a timeline on it. I think that even just that culture within ourselves, within our self-care, within our devotion, within the way we dialogue to ourselves, even just that, it creates ease in my body, even just talking about it. Forget time, forget outcome, forget goal, right? We can release that paradigm. And then really simple ways. So when I first start working with women, I'm meeting them in what I call the mental gates. They're coming to me, head brain, dominant, logic, dominant, risk mitigation, dominant. They're usually business owners, they've done well for themselves. They're smart, they're intellectual. So I meet them in that space because I can't speak to them a language from the body yet when they're not there. And so a really beautiful way for anyone listening is like, don't worry about like recalibrating your nervous system just yet and like all these practices and rituals to create safety. Just start with like what can be really simple and easy for you. And so some really simple things that women love because it satisfies that checklist to do part of them that's very much online is like create spaciousness. I call it digital feng shui. Create spaciousness in your email inbox. I'm like, make yourself a cacao or a warm beverage and set a timer for like an hour and a half and just go for it. Unsubscribe from all of those emails that you get, archive ones that you're going to look at later, delete, 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 delete. I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of emails can get deleted and organized. And now you've got space in your inbox. And then any future ones that come in, you can, unsubscribe from and all of that. So creating space in the digital realm. Another way to do that is I invite clients to go through an Instagram unfollow sweep. Hundreds, unfollow, unfollow, bless and release. And even that brings up stuff. What are they going to think? Are they going to think I'm mad at them, right? So even that energetic digital space creating is already initiatory, right? I suggest like women go through their phone. I did this once back in 2020. I sat down at a chair for like an hour or two and just went through every single one of my phone contacts. So I was fully present with it. It was a ritual, but I deleted every contact that I had no idea who they were, or maybe I knew I would never see them again. Our time was complete. Hundreds of contacts deleted too. You can do it in your phone. You can delete all the old photos, previous lovers, old things that no longer are serving your current reality. And just see how that feels. One, because it's an initiation. And then two, the fun part is see what happens after you create space in your life on a digital realm. What starts to manifest and come into your life. You can do it in a physical space, clearing out your pantry, clearing out your closet, clearing out your wallet, like purging. This is you can start doing this today, is right? Because just start noticing your attachment to physical things, to digital things, and start clearing, I call it like energetic hygiene, the space around you.
It almost feels like unsafety is attached to all these things. And having lots of things, like distractions, open loops, pieces in your life are almost like preventing deep safety from happening. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think ultimately, yes, but the first important piece is it's also showing you where you're covering up where you don't feel safe.
Can you speak to that?
So the more contacts I have on my phone, the more connected I feel. The more followers I reach out to on Instagram, the more connected I feel. The more clothes I have in my closet, the more abundant I feel. So a lot of our physical things that are just taking up space provide safety, but not internal safety.
I would even say they provide security.
Security.
Not safety.
Yeah.
Security is an external, sort of like it's based on how much money I have in the bank or how many friends I have or how I'm perceived. Security is, even that word secure, right? There's like it's created, it's manufactured, versus safety is an intrinsic, internal, sourced from within the well of spaciousness feeling.
Yes.
And it's not something that you have to do anything to access. It just is there when all the noise isn't there.
Yeah, I love that. It's secure feels like head, brain, logic, structure, spreadsheet. And again, that's great. And what we're talking about is embodied, unwavering safety. And this is a key piece. I talk about this a lot, is like energetic sovereignty. So whenever I get on initial calls with women, one of the first questions I ask them is, what makes you feel safe? Sometimes they'll say money, my husband, my job, my dog, everything but them. Everything but them. And all of these things are impermanent, right? And transient. And so this energetic sovereignty piece is like unwavering. It's like, to me, that is like, when I feel into like the queen archetype, like that is a key piece, is she feels safe unto herself. And that is actually, going back to that leadership question, just her being in a room, others feel safe. not in like a codependent way, like I need you to feel safe, but she's beaming out a frequency of home. And actually, like Guru Singh, one of my yoga teachers, says, like, actually the role of a teacher and a leader is someone who you feel like home when you're in their presence.
The safety imprint that, and I kind of want to like come back to something you said beautifully outside when we were sitting. You said that the seed of transformation or alchemy or awakening was safety, but the way that every woman blooms is different. Can you speak to that idea? Because I think that's like what you're saying, like, hey, let's clear the space, right? And then let's allow safety, a baseline of safety, to show us where to go, to show us what's true, to remind us of what's here. And that cultivation is ultimately what I feel and see as the work in feminine embodiment. At least from what I observe and what I learn from you.
Totally. Yeah. I love using gardening as an example because I think a lot of people can relate to it, and it's, to me, very symbolic of feminine energy and what we do when we're cultivating feminine energy. So when we think of a lot of these other tonalities of femininity, but deeper qualities of femininity like playfulness and radiance and lusciousness and sensuality and things like this, to me that's all the flower. It's the final piece. It's the symphony of the uniqueness of this woman and her soul imprint. But like the important piece is to follow it all the way down the stem, down to the roots, before the roots even grew, and look at the seed. And look at the seed and look at the soil that the seed was planted in. Because in our capitalistic, postmodern feminism world, Amazon Prime culture world, we want to know, how do I get the rose now? How can I be at my fullest bloom right now? What do I need to do? What do I need to do, right? But it's like, let's look at the origin of all of it. And I believe the origin of all of it is, like you said, safety. And I refer to it as like the source code. So it's like the source code of safety being in the seed and in the soil in which that seed is planted is not only vital for I believe for fullest feminine awakening to actually even happen, but the constant tending to and nurturing of that every single step of the way is also really valuable as well. So it's not like when you asked about the map in the beginning and it starts like you are here and you journey and it's like safety and spaciousness are in the beginning. Safety, stillness, slowing down, spaciousness are accompanying every step of the way. Just like that seed is always, the energetic imprint of that seed will always be there even after the shell cracks, right? The soil, we have to water it. We feel it. Is it overwatered? Is it underwatered? Does it need a little fertilizer, right? So we're tending to that soil. We're actually not even directly tending to the plant. And so as women, we're not even directly tending to what we're becoming because we don't know yet what that even looks like or how that's going to be for our unique imprint. But we can tend to our foundation, our base, and our sense of safety every step of the way through.
What else is in the foundation? So safety feels like a foundational key seed. But what's in the soil? And what's the water?
Yeah.
And what's the fertilizer? What are all the ingredients
Yeah.
of this foundational element of becoming?
Yeah. So the framework that I love to use is like going back or going into this concept of feminine descent and the tantric path, which is down and in, down and in. I refer to the lower triangle, right? So the lower triangle are the lower three energy centers of the body, our primal centers, right? The higher ones are a little bit more, a lot more spiritual, interdimensional. But these lower energy centers, whether you're a man or a woman, are primal centers. And this is where a lot of our conditioning and our wounding and our patterns and our traumas all live. And so if we can tend to those at the base of our body, at the base of our chakra system, the awakening, aka the blooming of the flower, will naturally happen. So we already talked about the seed of origin, which is safety, right? And so to me that cultivates, it represents like your nervous system. tending to your nervous system, getting yourself more like parasympathetic dominant. The vagal nerve is yummy and juicy and slow and relaxed. And so the soil then, to me, represents the root chakra. The root chakra is your first chakra, your foundational center. It's the earth. It is, to me, holds a very divine mother and divine father energy. That divine mother, that pulse, that heartbeat of like, I love you unconditionally. No matter what you do, you are perfect. I love you so much. I'm here for you today, and I'll be here for you tomorrow, right? So infusing that into our energy imprint. And then that divine father of like consistency, reliability, showing up for yourself every day, devoting to yourself. And so harmonizing the root, AKA the soil, is what I feel allows us to shift from like, if we think of like soil that's like cracked and old and like, you know, just not good quality, that soil is going to feel like fear. I don't belong here. I'm not provided for. I'm not safe. And so if we start to nurture that soil, it knows inherently, because again, it's a remembering, a returning. I am inherently worthy. I belong here. Everyone is my family. And I'm always provided for. Unwavering peace. So it's like that's the earth, that's the root. And then the water piece, the watering piece is that second center. Like, so keeping the soil nourished and, you know, juicy and yummy is like the second center. The sacral center is the waters of your chakra system. And so when your sacral center and your soils are undernourished and dehydrated, that's going to present as a woman who is very rigid. Like her body's very rigid, her thought pattern is very rigid. There's a lot of grip and control on life, a lot of production, but not a lot of creation. Doing and not a lot of being. Rigidity in thoughts. Whereas when she's hydrated, metaphorically through the yumminess of her second center, she's fluid, both in her body, but also in the way she thinks about life. And she's easeful and graceful and flowing. And she flows through the world and through her day. And so, and then the fertilizer that you asked, like to me, when I think about what is the fertilizer, it's our thought, our beliefs, our thoughts and our beliefs. You can have fertilizer with pesticides, right? Might be great for the plant, but how great is that overall, right? And so if we switch to like an organic fertilizer that's actually, you can eat it probably, it's so organic, you know? And so changing our thought patterns to one of like positive thinking, self-empowered creator, creatress. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because I want to also speak to like just how important it is for community. Like I like think about it a lot. Like, man, I'd be so screwed without other men in my life who have shown me things or shared their stories, or because like I'm like feeling this time period we're in right now where it's less about like the guru and it's about each of us doing our own work and then coming together and teaching each other. And like I'm like listening to you speak and I'm like, wow, like I could never teach a woman that. I could never show, it's like I can't think of it like that. And so other women need to be helping other women, just the way it works. And so like, can you speak to the importance of having sisters in this process?
Totally.
And where, like, because like I said, like there's just certain things that not even a teacher can teach. It's actually just there's actually a sisterhood piece. And I actually intuitively sense, because it's been the way for me with men's work, in that like a big part of the initiation and becoming fully embodied is being able to actually do it with men, for me. So I'm curious, is it similar for women? And I almost feel like even that the wound of everyone for themselves is a big part of the feminine wounding.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious how that plays into just your own journey and how you think about this flowering?
I love that question so much. Well, I'm just thinking of like, I would so much rather walk by like a garden of a variety of flowers in full bloom and versus just one like in the window of a flower store. You know, like one is beautiful and more is even more beautiful, and especially more that are uniquely expressed. And so when I think into like what inspires me in beauty, it's like the more unique women that I can meet, the more inspired I am. But yeah, with this modern world that we're living in, like so many women are afraid of women. Like when I say that, I mean they're afraid to get vulnerable with women. Because again, postmodern feminism, I got my back. Like I've been betrayed by women before, right? This is a lot of like the pulsing that's going into the conditioning of just being a woman. Don't trust other women, you know, hold yourself, you know, and we're competing for the top, you know? And so just being around other women who were desiring to remember, desiring to return, desiring to unlearn is a shared experience. So automatically there's some commonality there. There's some sameness there. There's some like, I can drop the sword, drop the armor. Like we're on a shared mission. We're on a shared journey here. We're all gardeners of the same community plot here, you know? And so working with women, being surrounded by women who are on this journey of remembering is just so healing because it's like, and one of our friends, Alan, said this a few weeks ago, is like the healing is in the witness, right? The witness is the healing. And when I really sat with that, I was like, you know what? Like we've lost the witness just as a culture, as a world. We've lost the witness of self-witnessing self, self-witnessing other. And when I say witness, I mean loving awareness, holding loving awareness, universal, just loving awareness, pulsing that in, just holding space. And like, what's so wild is like, we know how to do this as women. We've been sitting in circles for lifetimes. We know how to do it. We just inherently know how to do it. So when you actually get a group of women together and sit them in a circle, something is activated within them. Whether it's 3 women or 40, there is something inherently activated in their DNA, in their knowing, in their womb, in their hearts, that, oh yeah, I know how to do this, you know? So to me, that's the power of sisterhood, is healing the wounding of you can't trust other women, they're gonna take from you, right? No, because the feminine energy by nature is generous and reciprocative, she will only always give back if she's in her true nature.
Yeah, I love the idea of living in a world where everybody's in their true nature.
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
It's like a better world. I think about this a lot just with Liberate and everything that I'm even on this earth to inspire. It's like, at the end of the day, if we could all come back home to that remembrance of our true nature and then express through our masculinity or femininity through that lens of authenticity and love and safety. Safety actually is, I think, the true imprint that then gets expressed into all of the different qualities that I would define as, which I actually feel like you, I know a little while back, like you actually shared like the qualities of this frequency. I think you called it soul yum, which is really sweet. And so I'd be curious if you would be open to like reading just that frequency of possibility. Because, you know, I think that one of the things that's so inspiring about this body of work, which is waking up to the fullness of self, is once you know what's possible, the seed is planted. That's the seed of curiosity. That's what allows and inspires the movement of the work. It's like, oh, that level of ease, that level of connectivity, that level of rate, like whatever it is. And so when you read your like just list to me, I was like, ooh, like
That's it.
that was no, it was beautiful. So I'm curious if you'd be open to sharing.
Yeah, totally. I just want to share the backstory of how that concept of soul yum came to me, where you and I were. It was my first week here in Boulder, and you and I were at Red Rocks Amphitheater, just such a vortex of big energy, surrounded by nature, like, whew, okay, this is Colorado, baby, and like suddenly this concept of soul yum just dropped into me. And I was like, oh yeah, like I love the way that feels. I love, like I was feeling the tone of what the signature energy imprint is. And like, when you and I first started dating, you would say so much, and you still do, but like, you're so yummy. You're so yummy. And I'm like, what is it? Like, if I actually think about what does yummy mean, and how can we apply that on like a meta level? Like, what does it mean when your soul is yummy? And I do think that a man can be very much in his soul yum as well. But for me, like when I think of a woman in her soul yum, like I was in my tea meditation this morning and I wrote down some things to really just grasp what this feeling tone is. And again, this is for feminine embodied soul yum. And she's going to uniquely, with her own colors and flavors and splashes, express it into the world. But at the core, to me, it feels like honey water, golden, luscious nectar dripping, deep, nutritive, life-giving, rich, descended down and in. She's supple, safe, and slow. She sits in her relaxed power, her relaxed radiance, and her relaxed receptivity. She is led and leads by her body and her erotic energy as opposed to her mind and her ego. So she's leading from her womb and from her heart. She's forgiving and compassionate. She's embodying those like deeper bass notes of the music of life. She's magnetic and alluring, beautiful, organically beautiful, magical. Right? She lives a life of prayer and reverence and devotion. She's sensual and deeply confident. She feeds the sacred within her and therefore everywhere around her. She's intimate with all of life. She's intimate and at home within herself. She's turned on and she's tuned in and she's alive. So that's the signature. Like I almost think of it as like a perfume, right? There's like a recipe and a uniqueness to like a certain perfume that you might wear. And to me, this concept of like a yummy soul or like soul yum is like its own unique flavor of expressing.
Yeah, when I heard you read that earlier, I was like, wow. I mean, just to know that this is what I love about the internet. It's what I love about podcasts. It's what I love about learning. It's what I love about this time we're in right now. And that we all are truly walking each other home. Right? Like by you doing your own work, by you learning to access and channel and to share this through your own expression, it's now giving other people a possibility to find themselves in that frequency. Right? And also ask themselves the questions, what's preventing me from stepping into that frequency? And that to me is the first question.
Totally.
It's the first question. You can't, if you're a fish swimming inside of a dirty fishbowl, you don't even know you're in a dirty fishbowl. You just are. And then someone takes you and puts you in a clean fishbowl and all of a sudden you're like, wow. And that's ultimately what I feel like that was, and what I feel like just this whole body. I come back to this time we're in right now of all of us walking each other home and inspiring each other. And I just love the way that you teach this work because you're actually living it.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about you, like, is just how deeply devoted you are to your own practice, like your own daily practice, your own sadhana, your own cultivation of sisterhood, your own ritual with your moon. Like there's so much that you embody and do that I know is a deep reflection of your work. And I'm not a woman, but I'm a big fan. And I just want to thank you for being. Like I just love watching you be. It's one of my favorite things.
Thanks, baby.
I would love to okay, so now we've painted the picture of what is the descent, what is this? And I'm curious if you can speak to all the work you're doing and all the ways that women can work with you. And if they listen to this podcast, like, how can they step into more of themselves? And if they wanted to do it with you, how could they do that?
So many women look at other women that maybe they're inspired by or feel like, ooh, what's she got going on? And they create so much distance between themselves and what they desire or who they desire to be or how they desire to become embodied. And it's like, I feel like the first step is like the woman, like I always say, if you spot it, you got it. So if you're seeing something, feeling something, having a sensation by watching a woman, it's because it's touching a piece within you that's already there. That's just asking to come back to life. So it's like, trust that. You don't even need a coach. You don't need to read a book. You are that. So I think that's like the first step is just like celebrating yourself as a woman and all that you're capable of and all you've been designed to do. And then the next piece is, yes, leaning into support is really helpful, right? Whether that's your direct sisters. So many women that I speak to are like so starved for friendships and deep, intimate connections. So maybe just make a goal for yourself to be like, this season I want to just draw in one sister, like one woman who's wanting to walk this walk with me, and we can like go to, experiences together, and we can get vulnerable together, and we can like drop our swords and our armors together and see how that feels, right? So start reaching out on what I call the horizontal plane of devotion, like other, celebrating yourself, reaching out to others. And then, I'm a little biased, but I think hiring support is really, really helpful on this journey because, and I know this because I took myself on this journey solo, and it took me a long time because I was like figuring it all out as I was going and what works and what doesn't. And then, of course, there was nobody to hold me accountable. So I would sit on what I call the proverbial sheepy for like 3 months and do nothing and avoid the growth and the work and all of this. So if we have the mirror, the witness, someone holding us lovingly accountable, that helps a lot. We can literally collapse time and just go at quantum speeds and move at the pace of love and trust. And so, I've been doing one-on-one work with women for the last 5 years and have created this map, as you're calling it, like this framework, this structure that works. It's worked for myself and it's worked for so many other women. And I'm feeling ready to turn that into a group offering to make it more accessible and to include that piece of community and circling and sisterhood and counsel and shared experience. And so I feel really, really excited about it. It's going to be launching like around the holidays. There's no date set in stone yet, but it's going to be a really small, intimate container, really highly curated with women that are, everything I've shared so far. It's like, again, even getting out of your head, how has your body felt listening to this? How do I feel? Where do I feel it in my body? And what does it sound like? And if you're curious about exploring more of your soul yum, then this would be a really good experience for you to co-journey with.
Yeah, and so how would people learn about it? Would they just go to your Instagram? Would that be the best way?
Yeah, so probably by the time this is released, I'll have started talking about it. So I would say to go to my Instagram, at the Natalie Adele, and just send me a DM and just say soul yum, and we can start a conversation. I'm really holding a strong prayer field to call in and magnetize women that were where I was 5 years ago.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I can't say enough amazing things about you as a being, and just what I witness in you and what I observe in you and what I feel in you as a man is stunning. And so I just, I love you. I'm so grateful that I get to love you. It's the sweetest thing, and I feel so lucky. And so we'll make all of Natalie's, one link, her Instagram handle.
We'll keep it simple.
In the show notes. Darling, I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
In the midst of everything you're doing, everywhere you've been and everywhere you're going, how do you stay grounded? And what's one thing you do every day to just become more grounded?
Yeah, lately it's been a tea practice for me every morning. It's been a moment where I literally like swallow the tea and drop in. I feel the warmth and I'm drinking trees and I commune with her and it's silent and like spacious and watery and earthy and all the things. So that's been my go-to practice lately to stay grounded.
Yeah, and I love that the practices change, but the frequency is always the same. Right? Like whatever brings us into this frequency of, whether it's soul yum or this frequency of liberation or this frequency of just like expanded, infinite, boundless consciousness, that ultimately when we're connected to that, we are grounded beings.
Totally.
Right? You don't need to stay grounded if you are connected to that infinite nature of your being.
You just are.
You just are.
I love that.
It's a powerful thing to work towards, and it's a powerful thing to prioritize. Because when we are here, we truly are infinite, limitless, expanded, happy, connected, inspired beings that don't have threads of anxiety and fear and judgment and criticism and all of the noise of the mind. Anyways, I love you.
Yes,
Thank you for
I
being.
love you, Raj.
And everybody,
Thanks
that's
for
a wrap
having me.
for this week's episode of Stay Grounded. I'm your host, Raj, and this is your old friend, Natalie. And from us, stay grounded.
We love
We'll
you.
chat soon.